In this video, I'll give you the 2024 quarterback strategy for 2024 fantasy redraft leagues. I'm Jim Coventry of Rotowire. Look, we all love the idea of Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes. It's great. However, and I know you can build rosters that win in any particular way, but I just can't pass up on the running back and wide receiver value that I can get in the first 4 to 5, even 6 rounds of my draft. And so my running back strategy builds around the fact I want to have a great room of running backs and receivers. And the way to do that is to identify quarterbacks that can help me win my league who don't require the heavy draft capital. These 3 quarterbacks are all right around quarterback 7 through 9 in draft. So if you wait till 5 or 6 quarterbacks are off the board, you could go with any of these 3 options. They're all great anchors to your quarterback room. And yet I think you're not dipping into the borderline well. These are going to be very good quarterbacks. They'll have a high floor and a high ceiling. Kyler Murray's the first one. Now, Kyler Murray returned from an ACL injury in week 10 last year. And he didn't have a lot of his receiver room. Marquise Brown was out with a heel injury, missed a lot of time. Michael Wilson missed a lot of time. Murray was going with basically Trey McBride often as de facto number 1 receiver. And yet we saw Kyler Murray go between 19.5 and 26 fantasy points in 7 of 8 games. That is some exceptional production. And coming back from the ACL, Murray had between 24 and 49 yards in his last 4 games. That was good. But now imagine Murray a year removed from his ACL, and we know how effectively Kyler Murray can run. And in terms of his passing game, whenever Kyler Murray has had great receivers, when he had a healthy DeAndre Hopkins for a while, when he had a healthy Marquise Brown, they were very productive. Well, Murray gets Marvin Harrison. He brings over Michael Wilson. Now, Michael Wilson had over 50 yards in 5 of his first 8 games when we had Clayton Tune and Joshua Dobbs at quarterback. Wilson was hurt late last season, and he came back for the last 4 games of Murray, but the first 2 games, he didn't do anything. He wasn't clearly back from the injury, but the last 2 games, we saw the numbers for Wilson come back. So Wilson is a very good outside second receiver to have across from Marvin Harrison. And now you have Trey McBride as well, who proved to be an excellent tight end. Even James Conner as a receiver, he had very poor receiving numbers, but when Murray was back, we saw a 57 and a 64 receiving yard game out of Conner. So Kyler Murray has a lot of ways to get it done. The Arizona defense should still be poor, meaning they're going to have to score a lot of points. The next one to look at, if you're going with those 3 quarterbacks, picking one of them after the first 5 or 6 go off the board, is Dak Prescott of the Dallas Cowboys. Make it real simple. Dallas figured out their issues in their week 6 bye last year. They couldn't run the ball. Tony Pollard wasn't doing great. They didn't have much else. So Dallas went pass heavy the rest of the way. Dak Prescott scores at least 29 fantasy points in 7 of his last 12 games, includes the NFL playoff game. But also, it wasn't just like Prescott had this out of the blue season. In 2021 and 2023, they were almost identical numbers, right? About 4,500 yards and 36 touchdowns. So Prescott didn't need the team to be a certain way to have big production. Now we know that 2022 season, Prescott threw 15 picks, just had a bad year. It was an outlier. It happens, right? Well, this year, Dallas is likely to go right back to those pass-heavy ways because Pollard's gone, an aging Zeke Elliott's in. Royce Freeman, please. So they're going to do the same thing. And they optimize CeeDee Lamb, move him all over to formation. If the slot's the most advantageous, if the outside, they get him there. And Lamb is able to work super well at Prescott. Jake Ferguson really came on as the team went pass-heavy. Great seam stretcher. Dak Prescott has always loved the tight end. It's wheels up. If Dallas gets anything from Brandon Cooks and Jalen Tolbert too, there's even upside for more. Finally, the third quarterback in this trio, if you're targeting the quarterbacks after 5 or 6 are off the board, Joe Burrow. Look, Burrow had calf injury last year, and then he had the hand injury at the end of the season. His season was lost. It never really worked out for him. But, Burrow played 21 games played 16 games in 2021 and 2022. And overall, and I know he had an ACL as a rookie, but I think mostly he is a durable player. I think 2 of the last 3 years having been there, last year was just one of those weird things. Now, that said, right tackle Jonah Williams gone. They bring in Trent Brown, upgrade at right tackle. The line, especially the tackles, should help Burrow to get the ball out quickly enough. Interior line's a bit of an issue, but I really think that should be able to overcome that without too much of a problem. Now, that said, it looks like T. Higgins seems to be ready to roll. So great news. Jamar Chase, healthy. And that said, Mike Gesicki comes in. Mike Gesicki had 780 yards the last time he was in a functional offense 3 years ago. He was stuck in New England the last 2 years. Jermaine Burton, Andre Yoshibas, one of those two could emerge into a real weapon. Even Chase Brown as a receiver out of the backfield, when he's used, is very explosive. And the Bengals defense was not good last year, and I don't think it projects to be much better this year. So Burrow's going to have to throw, and Burrow can throw, and Burrow's an excellent quarterback. So I think Joe Burrow is going to outperform that ADP. Now, if you enjoy videos like this, please consider hitting the like button and subscribe to the Rotowire Fantasy Football channel on YouTube. Also, you can check out all of our fantasy football content and rankings by getting a free 2-day trial with no credit card needed. You just head to rotowire.com/Jim to see all of our content. All right, so you got your first quarterback. In a lot of leagues, we're drafting 2 quarterbacks. Now, the fact that you put somewhat significant draft capital into a quarterback, there really isn't a big need to take one of the other top backup options. You're rolling with a quarterback you're counting on. You didn't wait till quarterback 10, 11, 12. So let's look at 2 options later. Now, the first one is Kirk Cousins. And if you drafted Burrow, you can't really pair them up because they have the same bye week if that's your intention. But Cousins would match up with Prescott and Kyler Murray. Now, Kirk Cousins had an Achilles injury in week 8 last year, but he was already on record. The schedule release show on ESPN talking to Adam Schefter pretty much said full go week 1 unless something crazy happens, and it seems to be absolutely fine. Now, Kirk Cousins is going to go to an offense with Zach Robinson coaching it, and that's not going to be a problem, because Cousins played for Kevin O'Connell, and both of those coaches run a similar style of offense. The verbiage is the same. Cousins said it's a very easy transition for him. Now, Cousins, before his injury last year, was on a pace for a career year, knows a different team, but he walks into a really good situation in Atlanta. Drake London was a high first-round pick, poorly used under Arthur Smith, bad quarterbacks. He's a real deal as an alpha. Kyle Pitts was used as this joke of a downfield threat from bad quarterbacks. Poor Kyle Pitts had to suffer through that for 2 years. Kyle Pitts is a dynamic athlete and player, tight end. He's going to be weaponized in this offense. Even Darnell Mooney, who has been poor the last few years, he runs 4.3. That speed is going to be used. Cousins is going to be able to take shots against light coverage. Get Mooney in motion, use him there. They have 3 weapons to work with, and Bijan Robinson out of the backfield. Kirk Cousins should be in great situation again. And again, the Falcons defense is decent, but they're not great. So it's not like they're going to have to win these 13-10 games. They're going to need to score some points. And the last one, if you're waiting till around quarterback 19-ish to get your second quarterback, Deshaun Watson can still run. He's not going to be the player he was in Houston. That ship seems to have sailed. I mean, it could happen, but I'm not betting on it in any way. But Deshaun Watson, in the partial 2 years he's played with Cleveland, he's been on pace for 400 yards rushing. And now he seems to be recovered from the shoulder injury that put him out last year. And even as a passer, though, Watson seemed to be getting a little better the last 2 games. He had a good game against Arizona. Okay, bad defense. But then he engineered a great comeback against the Ravens. So it was a good sign that he could be decent. And he had great rapport with Amari Cooper. And the 5 games they played together, Cooper had at least 90 yards despite not being over-targeted. Jerry Jeudy comes in with some very good run after the catch ability to take over for Elijah Moore, who is not good after the catch. All that said, the rushing floor is huge at a backup quarterback, and that can always lead to the scoring that you could use out of a backup. So for that matter, Watson's fine, and maybe he even gets a little better as a passer this year.